Board games have been popular family entertainment for decades, if not centuries. Here are a few lesser-known games from the past century. Round the World with Nellie Bly. Inspired by Jules Verne's novel Around the World in 80 Days, the New York World reporter Nellie Bly set out to circumnavigate the globe in 1889. She beat Verne's fictional character Phineas Fogg, arriving back in New York in 72 days. The New York World published a full-page game version of her travels on January 26, 1890, and the game company McLaughlin Brothers then adapted and produced a board game version. In the game, players use colored wooden discs and a spinner to move around the board. The squares form a spiral, leading the players to the center of the board. Can you make it around the world, or will you find yourself delayed by accidents, sickness, or bad weather, as Nellie Bly and Jules Verne watch over the players from the game board's corners? Pit. In 1903, the small company of Gavitt Publishing and Printing put out a board game called Gavitt's Stock Exchange. The game was then adapted by the mystic Edgar Cayce, who was on his way to becoming a well-known psychic, and produced by Parker Brothers. The game was renamed Pit to capitalize on a 1904 novel of the same name by Frank Norris. The Pit was a nickname for the trading floor at the Chicago Board of Trade, much like the floor of today's New York Stock Exchange. In the game, players receive cards with different commodities such as wheat, oats, or corn, and then compete with other players to trade cards among themselves. Everyone plays at once, shouting out what cards they have and what they want in return. The objective is to corner the market on a particular commodity. Some versions use two special cards, the bull and the bear, to make the game even more competitive. Pit still exists today, along with many variations. Perhaps Edgar Cayce knew this would be a game for the ages. The popular game of Broadway. Board games based on books and movies aren't a new phenomenon. In 1915, Parker Brothers put out a board game based on the best-selling novel Pollyanna by Eleanor H. Porter. In 1917, they remade the game for a New York audience and called it the popular game of Broadway. In the game, each player has 4 pieces. The objective is to have all the pieces travel around the board and return home before any of the other players. The player pieces travel down Broadway and visit architectural landmarks of the time, such as the Flatiron Building, the Times Tower, the Woolworth Building, and the Metropolitan Life Towers. Amazingly, all 4 landmarks are still around today. Zulu Blowing Game, also known as Zulu Blowgun Game. Before jarts, before Boba Fett's projectile missile, before bicycle helmets, toys were a little different. In 1925's Zulu Blowgun Game, players were equipped with 24-inch long cardboard tubes made to resemble bamboo, along with darts and targets. The game instructions emphasized using indoor arrows and shooting at targets about 10 feet away. The board game carried the label "Harmless" on its cover, and explained that using the blowguns would develop the children's lungs. What could possibly go wrong? If you find this game and can resist the urge to try it out on unsuspecting bystanders or annoying siblings, it's worth nearly $400 today. The Magic Robot Quiz Game. The Magic Robot Quiz Game was all about the magic robot, and not so much about the quiz. Swedish game designer and writer Gösta Lars Knutsson invented the game in 1935. Many different versions were produced around the world, with the most common United States version being sold by merit during the 1950s. In the game, players ask the robot questions by pointing a stick in its hand to a particular spot on the board. The robot is then placed on the answers section, and it rotates until it's pointing at the correct answer. It's magic! Or in this case, it was magnets. This game's difficult to find these days, but owners report that it still amazes children, and it doesn't require batteries.